Today is Friday, March 23rd, 2018. It's MMAjunkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. I am Ghost. To my left, that is George. To his left, that's Dan. And up in the air when we point, that means that's Danny.
And me.
Hey.
How's everyone doing?
Tired. Yeah.
Tired, dog.
Yeah.
Tired?
Same.
Had a rough one at Extreme Couture yesterday, and then I had to wake up at 7 a.m. and do another one at Select Physical Therapy today.
Back to back like that? Is that normal?
Well, I was supposed to go with Jeremy on Wednesday, but I had caffeine withdrawal headaches. So I was a joke, man. I took like a 5-hour nap, and we moved it to Thursday. But yeah, you're right. I made it back to back, so I'm wiped.
I saw some of it. You were doing that thing where you go side to side with the bands. I don't know what that's called.
I've been trying not to complain, especially just because it feels like I'm perpetually this year having to deal with something. But yeah, I got drained a bit this week too, and when you get those headache attacks, whether it's from a caffeine withdrawal or whatever it is, yeah, they can be debilitating and shut you down, man. Especially in our age of having to look at screens or stuff that only kind of make it worse when you're in that state. I'm sure doesn't help. So
yeah.
Sometimes it's
I was
best to shut it down.
expecting it. There's been times where Tony and I did the water challenge a few months ago, and then I fell off, but I wanted to jump back on it.
2 minutes.
So there's been times where I've done it cold turkey, and it's been pretty smooth. But this time it wasn't. Simple as that. I was able to function, don't get me wrong, but I just thought, you know what, the best way is to just close my eyes and hopefully it goes away. And
Did you have a headache?
yeah, that's what I just said.
You've been drinking caffeine for a minute, though.
What?
Sleepiness, irritability, lethargy, constipation, depression,
Yeah.
muscle pain, stiffness, cramping,
Tell us more about that constipation.
lack of concentration, flu-like symptoms, insomnia, nausea and vomiting, anxiety,
It's just coffee,
brain fog,
not crank.
dizziness, heart rhythm
As someone
abnormalities.
who has had to look up symptoms for multiple things for multiple reasons over the past 5 or 6 months or so, it feels like all symptoms are like this, so similar. It's so tough. Like there's so many crossover symptoms. Like you qualify for so many things, and then you end up qualifying for none of them most of the time. Hopefully, if you're lucky,
Scary
knock
to
on
look
wood.
at 'em.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Coming up in a minute. Let's get excited. It's Friday.
Oh, not this whole mood thing. Yeah. It is Friday, though, I guess. Sorry, I'll give that to you, Dan.
It creeped up on us.
I did.
Did it creep? Yeah. That's the weakest attempt to get into a song ever.
Was
You
that,
just died out after like
TLC?
2
That was the worst version of
Back at
TLC
30.
ever.
Coming up at 30.
Danny could have came in with a yeah part and helped me at least.
No, I
Yeah, just
figured
keep it
it'd
on
be
the
funnier
down low.
this way. Keep it on the down.
Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
These girls
I
are
got
always
you.
angry in every song, huh?
Yeah. Alright, guys. Coming up. Stand by.
Mm-hmm.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMAjunkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMAjunkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Go. This is what we do and why we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMAjunkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMAjunkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMAjunkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes, our co-host. To my left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom, and of course, back east, producing the show as always, except when he goes home when there's snow, Danny Okers. What's up, guys?
What up?
Wow.
I miss having snow days. I never had one when I was a kid.
I never had one.
What about when you lived in Brooklyn?
No. I mean, there.
You lived there the 8 months, so there was no snow?
No, I visited there, lived there, but I never was in a situation where snow affected personal plans or work. Now that I think about it.
But did it ever snow while you lived in Brooklyn?
No, I think I just missed it during that 8-month stretch, but
Oh wow.
hung out 2 winters before that probably.
We got snow here.
Huh?
We got snow here.
Yeah, we did.
A month ago. Did you get it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been through a lot of the snows here. I mean, I've been a resident here on and off since like 92, 91 or something like that. And yeah, I've seen some. I think one of like 2008 or something was one of the most, like 2009. I don't know if you guys were here yet. Or maybe Goes might have been. But I want to say 2008 where we had it where it was like on the rooftops midday while you're driving home, kind of a deal.
Yeah, it covered the ground and everything.
Yeah, instead of just the falling and dissolving type, because we've had those different levels of snow here, right?
Enough to make a snowball, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was enough on the ground.
Yeah, if it's kind of icy, I don't think if it counts. Or if you have to go, look, over there, I don't think it counts. But if you're able to go, here's a snowball, then I think you can brag and say, we got snow today.
We don't have snow tires or anything like that out here, so driving sucks. Even when it snows a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
So yesterday, I don't know if we reacted enough to this, but this was the big news, and there seems to be a shakeup in the welterweight division. Colby Covington and Rafael dos Anjos will meet at UFC 224. We believe it'll be the co-main event underneath Amanda Nunes defending her belt versus Raquel Pennington. Colby Covington, who's not beloved in Brazil, that's an angle to talk about. What the hell's he thinking? But at the same time, could it be that that's just what he thrives on? Who knows? I don't think he cares much, honestly. But you know what? The UFC had security the last time he, piped up a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of things thrown at him.
Right. From the moment he left the octagon to leaving the arena, back to the hotel, accompanying him for the night he was there, to the airport, and all the way to the gate, almost like they were extraditing somebody from Brazil to the United States and handing him over to some air marshals, and then the air marshals hand him over to authorities here in the United States and say, okay, he's your problem now. So I believe he'll get similar treatment. And, dos Anjos, I don't know if he's Mr. Beloved Brazilian guy, but he's Brazilian. They'll get behind him. But it's not like the iconic Shoguns and Vanderleys and Anderson Silvas, but still, it'll have that feel to it. USA versus Brazil. We haven't really had too many of those, and boy, when they had Chael versus Anderson, it was huge. Oh, and Weidman too. So we get that. We get 5 rounds of these guys going at it for an interim title. And Tyron Woodley, I started scanning to see what, on Twitter to see what he had to say about it. And he was just, I think the most I got out of him was just shaking my damn head, from what others were saying, and he was retweeting, but I haven't really seen much of a statement from him.
It's hard to react without that.
It is.
I mean,
right.
Yeah.
We don't know if he feels like he was jobbed or if he just feels like he's done enough work for them. Like, we don't really know the extent of it, so it's hard to kind of react to what's going on.
Right.
That's what I hate about this.
Well, so until then, I guess we can just react to the matchup itself. We kind of gave our quick predictions yesterday of what we think is going to happen, and you guys can add to that if you want. If not, it's no big deal. The fight's not happening tomorrow, so. But just the trickle effect of what's going to happen. I would believe that the winner would fight Tyron Woodley, unless Tyron Woodley has some serious setback that in a few months one of these guys becomes undisputed. But what's going to happen to the rest of the division? Well, what we're hearing is Darren Till versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Thompson was on the show about a month ago, and he said, hey, I'm still rehabbing, and I'm not able to make a fist. But that was a month ago. So, he was progressing, and But that fight's coming up in May. It just didn't sound like he'd be ready to fight in May, and maybe there's been a turnaround for him. God bless him. But what are your thoughts on that? And I guess what's left, which would be Kamaru Usman, Gunnar Nelson, who was rumored to be fighting Darren Till in Liverpool, and now he's not, and Santiago Ponzinibbio, I guess, is another big name that's floating out there.
Time filler? Really? Right? I don't think much can come out of the matchup. Well, until we know what's going on with the champion, we don't even really know, like...
Which one's a time filler?
Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Darren Till. It's just a time filler. It's something to give them to do for now.
Well, no, it's a contender match.
If Tyron's the champ, are we going to see Wonderboy again? Nobody wants to see that again. It's a time filler for Wonderboy.
Well, okay, I see what you're saying, but...
It's a placeholder is basically what it is.
So what we'll treat it, let's treat it with Woodley's hurt, the winner of Covington and RDA. Who do you think should defend? The Ponzinibbio Usman winner, if they go forward with that, the Till Wonderboy winner, or is there someone else out there that we're leaving out?
See, this is the part that sucks. Is I feel like whatever it is with Tyron, I can't see him vacating that belt. Okay, so
no, he's not going to vacate it.
It's got to be injury related. Okay, and I have to imagine it's been a while. So let's just take some of the most devastating injuries. Usually guys are back by then. So I would say that in that time frame, he would be able to fight the winner of RDA and Covington.
Right.
Okay, which means that puts whoever comes out of these fights, they'll probably still have another contender match before we even get to that.
So they're almost.
That's why I'm saying this is like a big placeholder.
They're in a quarterfinal
to
get to a semifinal. All right. Now, just don't assume, though, that Woodley could snap and be back, because what's the injury that's been holding out Kane this whole time? It's the torn labrum. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Kane's running on 18 months. So setbacks are there. And how about DJ and TJ?
Mm-hmm.
Dana White came out and said that's not happening. He's saying that DJ is still hurt and he's gonna be out longer. And again, he had the shoulder injury. So what is happening here with labrum tears? For a while, we went through the ACL phases. And now we're going through labrum tears.
I'm only assuming because Tyron has come out before and said, I'm pretty sure I could be ready by this time or do this. So I feel like it's whatever it is, it's not as bad as some of the other ones where those guys just say, hey, I'm out and you're not going to see me for a while. I don't know. It just seemed like for a while that Tyron was actually willing to take fights. So I'm just assuming it's not as bad as people think.
Yeah. Well, that's what's happening so far. Now, Usman versus Ponzinibbio has not been confirmed. But Till and Thompson have strong rumors out there. But RDA Covington is a matchup that's made. Junkie Nation, if you want to call in and react, 866-522-2846. Now, today we are going to have 3 guests on the line. One of them's coming up here in about 20 minutes. It's going to be Ashlee Evans-Smith. She'll be fighting Beck Rawlings at UFC 223 on April 7th. Dan Tom will be there in Brooklyn, headlined by Habib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson. And then we also have Kyle Bochniak. He'll be on later on in the show in the second hour, also fighting at UFC 223 versus, let me see if we get this right, Zabit Magomed Sharapov.
Yeah.
There you go.
Got
I want to say Shapiro is one and Shapirov is another, but it's Sharapov. Magomed Sharapov. And they'll be mixing it up. Same card. I think I said that. Sandwiched in between will be Shannon Knapp. She's the president of Invicta Fighting Championships, and they have their next edition that's coming up tomorrow night. She'll be on with us in the second hour. So plenty of times to call in and chime in here on this welterweight division that's getting exciting. You know, there's kind of a little bit of a twist there, and it's unfortunate that they're going the route of the interim champ because it means that the undisputed champ, again, either has some sort of a setback or maybe there's a contract issue. We don't know, but he just can't fight. So now the others have to go and sort it out. I think Goes nailed it with the fact that the champ, once he's healthy, he's got next. He's in the on-deck circle. But, again, we just kind of don't know those details, and that's what's frustrating because imagine if Till could beat Wonderboy and be fighting for a world title. I mean, that could be a big star for the UFC, especially with Bisping basically leaving mixed martial arts sometime in 2018. I have to believe his next and last fight will be in 2018. England needs a big star, and that could be it. That cat, Darren Till, you know.
I think what's interesting is it takes a lot of power away from Tyron Woodley, right? For the longest time, he was sitting there going, I would like to fight this gentleman or this gentleman. That this interim title kind of just forces him to. Now you got the winner of this.
You got the winner.
You got no choice.
And it could be Colby, who he despises, and it could be RDA, who's not too excited to fight. So we can say this: Tyron Woodley's next fight won't be a blockbuster at the gate, unless Covington just becomes this hella villain out in Brazil. He defeats RDA. People are throwing stuff at him. It's all over ESPN and Fox Sports, and all of a sudden he becomes the biggest villain we've ever known. And sure enough, either people are going to rally behind Tyron and say, kick his ass, or others are going to say, you go, Americano, you know, because he went into Brazil, and come do your thing. You know, I don't know.
Whoever it is needs to be smart. I know it's going to be a great moment in their lives where you want to embellish winning a title, although RDA has done that before, but still, you need to use that moment to build that Tyron fight right away and call him out. Start that promotion for that fight.
I agree. TJ and DJ. Bummed out about that, or
That is not happening?
that it's not happening?
Not really. I mean, not really. I think there's a lot to like in both those divisions that's not being talked about, you know. I think there is an argument that, yeah, this probably was a better time than any to have done it. I'm not arguing against that, but there's, you know, I'm always champion on this show all the time, the depth of bantamweight that's growing. And even, you know, flyweight quietly, whether it's new contenders coming in or guys like Cejudo kind of reforming themselves. So I think there's a lot to like there still.
It always felt like it was just too far away to really believe. It never felt like it was right there.
Yeah, that too.
So I never really got too excited over it.
The reason I wasn't too offended was because DJ had clearly cleared the division, and there are a couple killers out there that want, you know, a second or third round. You know, I believe Cejudo is a quality flyweight, and I believe Borg is a quality flyweight. They need a few more fights, and then they can challenge again, which is what Benavidez has already done, and he's looking for a third shot. So that's unfortunate, but that's how dominant Demetrius Johnson's been. TJ wanted to drop only because Cody Garbrandt dropped out of the fight. He said, I want to stay busy. How about I challenge this guy, being that I'm a former champion and I'm a lighter weight bantam, and my fight just fell out. How about I challenge him for his 10th defense? He built a storyline there that, and years ago, remember both of them used to say, I'll fight each other for $2 million. They used to throw that number out there. And so that kind of went away. So he revisited it when Garbrandt was out. That's why it wasn't forced, and that's why I wasn't too offended at the fact that TJ went after. As soon as he beat Garbrandt, he said, you know what? I'm going right back after this. You know, a chance to be a dual champion, which seems to be the theme out there. Everybody wants to win a second belt in a second division. Conor McGregor did it in 2016 and 2017. And 2015 and 2016 he won. And, wow, that's a long time ago. Conor McGregor, he beat Jose Aldo in 2015? Holy shit. Where's the time going? And now Cormier's trying to do the same thing. So I see that there's a theme there, these money fights, and so I can't hate on the kid for doing it. But then I go back and you know, like Dan says, it is a fun division, man. It's what could be a thriving division, but who really is getting shafted here? Dominic Cruz, I haven't heard that he's healthy. I haven't heard him paired up in any form of a matchup or rumor to say that guy's healthy and ready to go. And the same goes for Garbrandt. Although Garbrandt, I've heard healthy rumors that have him linked up with Rafael Assunção. And then you got Jimmy Rivera, who his record alone is very impressive. His run in the UFC is very impressive. But I feel like he needed to beat one of those guys I just mentioned, or Moraes or Assunção, and then you get your shot. You know what I mean? And then, of course, there's Moraes, who's 2-1, who lost to Assunção. So Assunção may go, wait, don't talk about Moraes until you talk to me. And Assunção actually has a pretty decent case because he's 1-1 with the current champion. But he hasn't fought because of injuries. And when he fights, the fights just kind of come and go. There's not much pop to you know, his presence. He's not as popular as some of the other guys. And so all of a sudden, you could tear down the division really quick, too. Sterling took a loss to Moraes. Almeida, who was undefeated for the longest time, he took 2 or 3 hard losses. And you see what I'm saying? So I that's why to basically summarize why I wasn't so against the money fight in July, I was okay with it. But now what do we do? If that fight's not happening, who do you give to TJ?
Wait, to TJ or DJ? What'd you
TJ.
say? TJ?
Yeah, because DJ apparently is hurt, so he can't be involved in the fight. So let's talk about the fighter who we believe is healthy, because I think TJ said he had some stuff to shore up, but nothing serious.
I think you kind of do what you're doing at welterweight right now. You use this opportunity to build up other guys in other regions, giving them fights. I know I believe, I'm not sure they have Sergio Pettis booked up with right now, but Cejudo, I believe he's the front runner in my mind, and I believe he said he would at least like one more fight before that rematch. I believe he was quoted as saying. So
right, but
you give him another fight.
But my question is, who do you give to TJ? Because
TJ.
hurt.
Oh, okay, sorry, I said TJ. Yeah, if they're hooking him up with if they're hooking up Garbrandt with the Sunsao, then that's out of the equation. But Garbrandt seems like a guy that they'll do a last minute switch about if, for example, this news that we're talking about now just comes up. I wouldn't be surprised, even if that was set in stone. If that was already an announced bout, let's just say, I still wouldn't be surprised. I don't know about you guys if they pulled Garbrandt for a DJ rematch. I'm a big fan of Jimmy Rivera. I've been saying he's the dark horse in this division ever since I wrote his breakdown against Pedro Munoz in 2015. So I'm definitely I'm hard on that train. For Jimmy Rivera as well. Wouldn't have a problem there. And he's set to face Marlon Moraes, who's another guy I'm really high on, man, and is doing really well for him, making noise. So that's a solid fight. And again, that one's official, right? They're fighting each other. Yeah, okay. And that could gain steam, going into it, and then not just gaining steam going into it, because I believe it's a main or co-main event billing. But you have the big performance there, big finish. They're two bantamweights that carry a lot of power right there. There's actually a good chance for a finish, even though they're both skilled. But who stands out of all these guys to give TJ next? We have to give TJ a book. One of those two. It's got to be one of those two. One of Rivera or Moraes or Garbrandt. Either you pull Garbrandt for the marketable, easy rematch, right, or you do the meritocracy bout where the two exciting, deserved guys are Moraes and Rivera. To me, that it might not be the best answer. You might not like it, but that's the obvious answer to me.
I think a lot of people wouldn't like if a Sunsao got it. But if you got two guys that are injured and two guys that could always rematch, why not just pose Dominic and Cody and just push that back a little bit longer? Tell us Sunsao, all right already, here you go. Play that, because isn't that how that feels? Yeah. Haven't we felt like we've been talking about this for years and he's just been kind of getting slighted little by little? All right already, here's your goddamn title fight. All right. And then these two guys that are kind of banged up have a little bit more time to rehab, and you guys fight, and the winner of that, or if Marlon and Jimmy, whoever puts on a great fight there, they could supersede, almost like a mini tournament.
So when he said that, I thought it made sense. Well, why don't we just wait a few more weeks? I thought the fight was happening in April, and I just looked it up. It's not till June 1st. And so that's over 2 months. And I feel like the UFC is going to move in a direction to book TJ sooner. So now we're left with Cody versus Sunsao. Yeah. His fight makes sense, and I love it because of the heat. I love it when two guys that despise each other go in there and but I've also, for many years, championed if you're coming off losing a title, if you gave it one hell of a fight, or there was some controversy, or you held on to that belt for a long time, you got yourself a rematch. But Cody never defended, and he got smoked. And so I'm not anxious to give it to him, even though I think there's a buildup, and I think the UFC has two very marketable stars in Garbrandt and Dillashaw, or, stars who can become superstars. I think that's fair. But wow, this whole trilogy thing. Do we bounce that back and just let Cody continue building? That I don't know. That must be the fun part or stressful part about those guys at the UFC PI just studying it. What do we do? Because there's not really a right or a wrong.
And there's not a lot of options either. Like, I actually like Goza's option, but Goza's option would have been more sellable if, let's say, you didn't book Colby Covington versus Rafa dos Anjos, and you needed a title fight with a Brazilian in it for that co-main event slot. Then that would help Asansao's case. For it's like, okay, well, let's get it out of the way. We need something to fill for a co-main event slot. He'll be the Brazilian. We got TJ Dillashaw. Dillashaw gets busy. He gets back on track. They both get paid. All right, and you start checking off the boxes, right? But without something like that, it'd be hard to see them giving the Sunsao.
Does Brazil deserve 3 title fights? What if we just send a Sunsao and TJ to Brazil? We'd have Raquel versus Amanda, then America versus U.S.
Yeah.
And now you can have Stars and Stripes in the Brazilian colors, and I don't know if a poster's already out,
right?
But maybe go down that route.
Yeah, kind of like when the posters where they had the flags on their faces or whatever.
Yeah, I mean Rio de Janeiro's been good to the UFC. Brazil's been good to the UFC. UFC doesn't go back there as often, All right, here you go. Here's 3 title fights. Now, as I'm saying that, I realize, boy, man, are we costing the upcoming Vegas card, some marketable fights? I realize I'm saying that, and of course they want to make a great impression in Chicago. I don't know, but I like themes. That's
right.
For sure.
Yeah. It's tough to say, and again, another missing piece of this is with not to bounce it back up to welterweight is Woodley. What's his part of the deal? His part of the deal here. We're going, okay, we're gonna put this interim title out here, but here's where we're not sliding you, because we're gonna keep you're gonna be allowed to keep your title, and you're gonna be first in line to get booked for that July card that you want. We can still do that. We can either turn these guys around as an insurance policy if a GSP or another big name doesn't come up like in that regard. You know what I'm saying? So again, we don't know that, and that's kind of tough to say because like you said, with all these bookings in mind, we can't help but keep that July spot in the back of our head on what's getting placed there, because that's what they're thinking about.
Definitely. All right, we're gonna take this call. And about Tyron Woodley, just a quick thought. If I'm not mistaken, his Hollywood Beatdown show on TMZ, I think, drops every Friday. So I think we should check that out and see what he has to say. Unfortunately, I think it's post the MMA Junkie live show. But if one of you guys can look it up, I'd like to see. Because if that thing's already, if he does it earlier, or maybe I'm wrong, I don't get to it till later, I'm pretty sure it's every Friday. And I know he'll be answering the question there, and he's very open on that show. We tried to book him for the show, but we just haven't had any luck. Let's talk to Kevin in Chicago in the meantime. What's up, Kevin?
What's up? Third-time caller from Chicago. What I want to talk about is, do you think the UFC fans are kind of delusional when it comes to the wrestlers? 'Cause they think they kept saying, just give Till Covington, just give Till Usman. What? And I don't think they want that. I think those are really bad matchups. And the wrestlers, they just kind of grind out fights. It may not be fan-friendly, exactly how Usman did to the Viking dude. And kind of the new MMA fans, they don't appreciate the wrestlers, the grapplers, the Khabib types as much. Ben Askren's, John Fitch types. What do you think about that?
Well, I think when the brass is the one telling you not to appreciate it, it makes it even more difficult, right? If your boss is telling you, you shouldn't like this style of fighting because I don't, it's going to make fans start to boo. I personally, I enjoy it. I like when wrestlers do their thing because I don't want them to go out and throw hands just because they want to impress people. And then what? We didn't really get the type of fight that we were expecting. I'd rather them go out and do their thing and have the opponent figure out a way to stop them.
I'm biased, I'm biased. I'm with Goes, my biases come from, just grappling styles. I really appreciate a floating, grinding style, and the art that comes with that. But I agree with what Kevin's saying. Kevin's bringing up a real interesting point here that I actually heard Ben Askren, and doing some research for a recent article I'm doing, talk about a lot as far as it's the marketing. Look at the highlights, look at the Bob O'Reilly, look at the little highlight package, look at everything that's put together on a subconscious level, how much that's affecting us, what we take in. It's mainly striking highlights. We're not really seeing submission highlights, guys. And you think about it now, you start breaking down every package.
Mike Perry is promoted instead of a Ben Askren. They like stand and bang, bro, and all these meathead guys, and yeah, I'm not a fan. I like to see the pure wrestlers, the pure athletes expose these sloppy strikers. But I don't think Dana White and the UFC brass, they like that. They don't like seeing their flashy strikers, their kind of exciting strikers get manhandled.
Well, as we've been talking, Kevin, I realize that in talking about all this, we've kind of been talking about as hardcores, what do we want? And I always like to throw out, well, what does the UFC want? Because remember, they're a business. And so what it boils down to circle back your topic, that's just it. A lot of people don't like to see the ground aspects of mixed martial arts. People prefer the stand-up. And that translates into business as well, into what they can market, into who their bigger stars wind up being, or how faster they become superstars. Because GSP did become a superstar, even though he came from karate. He wound up making, most of his bread off of his wrestling, and it just took him a while, but he did become a pay-per-view star. And a lot of people, I remember coming in here on a Monday going, boy, we got duped again. GSP would grind out another 50 to 45, but he did it so often to so many great fighters that you had to respect that. But that's basically what it boils down to, my man. And Ben Askren, love him. Great wrestler, obviously, represented our country, but he does talk like everyone else is missing something, and we're not. Most people just prefer the stand-up aspect of mixed martial arts than the wrestling, you know, and I think television proves that. I think the history of combat sports proves that. That's just the way it is.
But then tune into K1 then, right?
No, but
into Muay Thai.
that's why boxing is very popular, and that's why
is the commissioner of the NFL saying, well, you know, these teams that like to run the ball, boring. Let's just air it out, run and gun every down. He doesn't do that, right? It's just part of the game. He promotes the game. That's what I think the UFC needs to do is promote the game.
Right.
They're too over the top with it.
But
it's okay every now and again to say it, but to continuously beat it down, it would be stupid.
No, but I know. But if you poll most people say they like the passing game versus the running game.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. If you poll most people, they like the striking part of mixed martial arts versus the grappling part. I'm not saying grappling sucks or it's boring. I'm just saying most people do, and the UFC's smart, and they know that. That's why they'll always pivot to those type of highlights, show those types of highlights, and endorse those fighters more strongly, and maybe even, dare I say it, protect some of those fighters. You know, but eventually they do have to face a wrestler, and it's not a bad thing because those wrestlers will make you better, man. John Fitch did it to many fighters. GSP did it to many fighters. He forced them to learn wrestling and make them better mixed martial artists. That's why I felt like John Fitch and guys like Jay Shields should have stayed with the promotion. Even though they may not have had the sexiest game plans, they made their other assets better fighters altogether. We got to move on, Kevin. Thanks for the call. It was a great topic. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back with Ashlee Evans-Smith.
compassion, common sense. These guys have none of that. You listen to them, so you're no better. I am awesome, though. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
You want me to see if I can read it with the lyrics of this song?
Sure.
Sure.
All right, here it goes. Here it goes, for real this time. Just in time for the NCAA basketball tournament, Sirius XM has 3 channels dedicated to sucks. 2 3 of the biggest conferences in college sports. SEC Radio is on channel 374, ACC Radio is on channel 371, and Pac-12 Radio is on channel 373. Check them out on your radio or on the Sirius XM app. All right, if Ashlee Evans-Smith hasn't hung up on us after that horrible singing performance, then we will be happy to talk to her, as she will be fighting in a couple weeks in New York, Brooklyn to be exact, versus Bec Rawlings at UFC 223. She joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. Hi, Ashlee. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, thank you. Thank you for asking. How you doing?
Oh, my goodness. It was so crackly earlier. I was afraid it was going to be, like, breaking up, and now I can hear you perfectly, so that's good.
What you got, like T-Mobile or Cricket, or is it on our end?
I got AT&T.
Oh, okay, my bad. So do I, but I'm having complaints about it. I may switch to Sprint, believe it or not.
Oh, well, so I hear AT&T is supposed to be the best coverage. Most clear, but who knows?
You're in Southern California, Santa Ana to be exact, right?
Yep, I live in Santa Ana.
So when I lived in Santa Ana, Sprint was awesome, no problems. And I hear AT&T is good, but I'm in Vegas now, and it sucks, but whatever. All right. So we're not gonna. Well, we won't talk about phones. We'll talk about this matchup versus Bec Rawlings in this new exciting division, the flyweights. You know, this division, I don't know if I was too thrilled about it, but I'll tell you why. I felt like the UFC had established 35, established 15, and I knew that some 35ers may drop and some 15ers might go up, and I thought it might jeopardize the other divisions. But so far, it's been pretty seamless. Just enough ladies have made a transition here or there. And now the division's starting to get exciting. How do you rate it, the division so far?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of people thought the same thing. They thought it would, cause kind of an inconsistency in the weight classes. But I think it just, the girls that went up and the girls that went down, it filled out the 125 division. And now there's a lot of new talent, but there's a lot of seasoned veterans as well. So the division is interesting to say the least, and pretty open, So all the flyweight matchups are going to be pretty awesome because you got these really hungry newbies, and then you got the girls that have been there for a while and they're seasoned and they're just always exciting to watch. So I just think it's an awesome division, and I'm excited to jump in there and be a part of it.
Yeah, I guess now that I think about it, maybe 35 will be hurting a little bit, because they had some retirements and a few of the ladies got pregnant, and then some dropped to 25. So maybe the 15 will be great. They're really stacked. 35 is going to suffer a little bit, but 25, I wasn't so excited at first, but after the season, and then with a few of the young ladies dropping and a few going up, I am really, really pumped up about this division. So is it the same with the females as it is with the males? The lower you go, the faster the females will go, but they'll lose some of their power? Or have you noticed that, it's kind of, is it any different, I guess, is what I'm asking.
I definitely feel quicker, but I don't think that's necessarily because of the weight drop. I think I felt a difference when I work with specific coaches. I have a strength and conditioning coach that I worked with 3 fights ago when I fought Marion Renault, and I feel like that was the best I had ever moved inside the cage, and my footwork, and felt really fast with my striking, and obviously, cumulative of my other coaches as well. But now I took 2 fights off to work with someone else, and I'm back working with him, and the mixture of the lower weight class and working with him, I feel super fast. So I think, the weight drop does play a part, but I think it's what the kind of training you're doing, because you can see, these big guys, and you're like, whoa, how does he move like that? And it's not because he's light; it's because he does the right kind of training. So yes and no to answer your question.
I haven't lived in Santa Ana in 10 years. How is the scene there? Do you have to go far outside of the circle of, let's say, Costa Mesa, Newport, Fullerton, Irvine, whatever, to get your MMA work done, or do you get it all done within a certain circumference of where you live?
I mean, I like Santa Ana for a couple reasons. It's probably the cheapest area to live in. You know, it's very culturally diverse, and you know, I feel like everything that I need, whether it's, you know, MMA, striking, jiu-jitsu, even my strength and conditioning, that's probably the farthest I go because he chose to kind of be a little bit farther, and sometimes you got to travel, you know, to get the best. But all my gyms are 15, 20 minutes away on average, and that's not bad for SoCal, you know. I time it right so I don't hit too much traffic, but if I didn't mind traffic, I could even go to LA and get some good training in, and if I timed it right, it could be 35, 45 minutes, there, one way actually. But yeah, no, I mean, I love Orange County. That's actually why I moved down here in the first place from Northern California when I was younger. I was about 23. Was because I just wanted to follow my MMA career and my little MMA dream of being a pro fighter. I heard it was the Mecca, so I moved down here, and it's been going pretty well.
All right, two things. You're not going to make it to L.A. even if there's no traffic in 35 minutes unless you have, like, a Porsche. So you must be like what's the young lady NASCAR? Danica Patrick or something, man. You must really put the pedal to the metal. But, you know, the reason I was asking was Jake Ellenberger used to live in, or I think still does live in Irvine, and he would go all the way to Glendale to train hands with Edmund Tarvidian. He would go to Torrance to train jiu-jitsu with the Gracies. Anyway, this got to be so bad. Didn't he rent an apartment, correct me if I'm wrong,
yeah, he did,
in the Glendale area just because 1 or 2 days of the week he just didn't want to deal with the traffic, and the drive was killing him. But that was about 5 years ago, and I'm glad to see all these other gyms are popping up that can get people quality work.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, you cut out a little bit there, but I mean, like I said, I don't have to travel very far at all. And if for some reason I needed to switch up my training, I could definitely just, go to LA or, other areas.
What do you have for Ashlee Evans-Smith?
Ashlee, your opponent, Bec Rollins, when you watch her fight, you look at maybe like her last 3 or 4 fights, does she seem like she's changed much from fight to fight? Do you expect pretty much the same Bec, or do you feel like maybe she could have added some new wrinkles to her game?
I feel like you know the answer to that question, but that's I don't do a lot of case study. I've always been that way. I'm a very mental person for good and bad reasons. But all my coaches and all my friends and everybody that supports me and helps me with my game plan, coaches and even teammates, they watch her and they're pretty unimpressed with her performance. She doesn't change much from fight to fight, even back in her Invicta days. When she was strawweight, now she's flyweight. It's just kind of the same person, which, maybe she hits a little harder. Maybe she's got more like oomph in her punch or something, but she's not, growing as a fighter, I don't think. And that's definitely not good with how fast our sport is growing and how quickly women and men are being cut and new people being added to the sport and division. So, definitely not a fighter that is ever evolving, and definitely makes our game planning easier. For sure.
Just to kind of piggyback off of what George was saying with the weight class change in your body and all that, how long did it take for you to feel 100% comfortable with your decision? And can you talk a little bit about the actual decision and how long it took to make that decision?
Yeah, I mean, long story short, I used to fight at 45, like my whole life. I wrestled from 15 years old all the way up to, 21 when in college when I graduated, and then I went 9 amateur fights at 145, and I think I went like 2 pro fights at 145, and then, they added the 135 pound division to the UFC, and, I was like, all right, I guess I got to drop some weight. And I knew I was, soft for a professional athlete. I just thought, it's not bodybuilding, so who cares? And, look at Roy Nelson. So then I made the jump to 135, and I felt good, and I said, I told myself, this is what a professional athlete should look like, closer to what a professional athlete should look like. I'm always pretty hard on myself, and I always, I was never that girl that had the ripped, shredded, 6-pack abs, even on the scale, but, what do they say, endomorphs and ectomorphs and whatever, but yeah, so, I was comfortable at 135, and then I just got more and more comfortable as the fights went on. I eventually became a vegan from being a vegetarian after 10 years, and my body started to lean out a little bit better. And then after actually my last fight with Sarah Cheesecake Morris, Unfortunately, I got armbarred. I lost the fight, which was a bummer. But I got injured, and so I pulled some tendons around the elbow. It wasn't too serious, but I ended up getting some PRP in my elbow to help it heal faster. I'd never done that before. I've really actually never been injured, actually seriously in a fight or even really training, knock on wood. So I really just wanted to be really, really good with that injury and make sure that I was doing everything I could to heal fast so I can get back in the cage. And what I did was just really excellent on my diet, like better than I ever had been, even in fight camp. And I started walking around really, really light. And I was like, well, this is like what I would wake up fight week, for 135. And then everybody simultaneously was like, hey, you're looking good. You're dropping down to 125. And I was like, then the idea got put in my head, and I was like, I could. And I always, like I said, I always kind of looked at myself and was like, you still got a little bit of Roy Nelson belly going on. You can you can drop down. And I just I thought about it, and I thought, I've never worked with a nutritionist. I never really tried it. I'm a very dedicated athlete, especially when it comes to cutting weight, coming from a wrestling background. And I also looked at the division, and the accumulation of those factors, I just thought, yeah, this is a good move for me. And also, I think against, it's a little sprinkle, but in the Vieira fight, my fight against Ketlin Vieira, that is a strong woman. And I just thought to myself, like, man, am I not strong for this division anymore? And, but then I went against Cheesecake, and I was like, nope, I'm strong. But yeah, then I got caught. So it was all those things mixed into one. Sorry for the long answer. But yeah, I just, it seemed like if I didn't go down, I'd kind of be selling myself a little short. And what's the worst that can happen? I'm doing it healthy. I'm not going to wait till the last minute and cut a whole bunch of water weight and feel sucked up and dehydrated. I'm not, a young athlete anymore. I'm a little more seasoned than that. But yeah.
Ashlee Evans-Smith, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. Let me turn it over to the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Dan, what do you have for Ashlee?
Hey, Ashlee, I actually like that long answer because I've actually been aware of you since the Tough Enough days. I don't think I was on any of the cards that you were on looking at them now, but I was in a lot of those corners and a lot of those back rooms. So watching you progress and get to the UFC, and now moving through the weight classes even as you took us through, it's really been awesome to watch. So good on you for slowly sharpening your sword there.
Oh, man, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, one thing I always wanted to ask you, though, you had the nickname Rebel Girl. Is there a story behind that, or are we a Bikini Kill fan?
Both, actually. I'm happy you actually know who Bikini Kill is. I get a lot of people, random fans that are like, hey, do you know there's a song, the Bikini Kill? I'm like, yes, I do, actually.
Yeah, I got a couple of their tracks on my iTunes.
Yeah, I'm a huge punk rock fan since I was, really, really young. And Bikini Kill is, definitely a band that I really loved. And there's no specific story. I've told crazy stories from my childhood and maybe even a little bit not so young crazy stories. But in other interviews, and Rebel Girl just kind of, for me, it became, I got a tattoo because of, the song and stuff. And then people were like, yeah, you are a Rebel Girl. And then it kind of was like, oh, that's a good nickname. And so people started calling me that, here and there and use it as a nickname. And it was very good for me because I liked it because when people ask me, oh, why Rebel Girl? I give a, I don't know, a mushy answer, It's not like, oh, because I'm a badass. That's not what I say. It's because for me, my whole life, I feel like I've been a little bit of a rebel. And even right now, the things that I'm doing, what am I doing for a career? I'm a female professional fighter. That's not really what society deems as, ladylike, or, getting tattoos or shooting the side of your head or, anything that's not really in society that's, normal or okay. It's kind of rebellious, right? So it could be even being a vegan, oh, you need to eat your meat and potatoes and, so... punk rock, that's a different kind of music, nowadays you listen to hip hop or maybe, so I can't think of one thing in my life that I'm not rebellious, I'm not a cheater. I'm not, out there doing really, really bad things, but I do have a rebellious spirit. And I think a lot of fighters, a lot of people do. And I think that's an image that I like to portray in a good way though,
Well, that's good to know, and I guess just building off that, I always wanted to know that, but building off that, and as a punk rock fan myself, I got to ask you, what are you coming out to for this fight?
Oh, man, everybody always asks me that, and I always say it's a surprise.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. Well, I'll be excitedly waiting because some fighters I stereotype in a positive way. You're one of those where I'm like, okay, I think I'm gonna like what they're gonna walk out to. So I'll be listening. Thanks.
All right. So Ashlee,
Yeah, actually,
go ahead.
okay.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, actually, yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, people are like, oh, you should always walk out to Rebel Girl, you know, since that's your nickname. But like, I just love the music so much. It's hard for me to choose one song, so I've never walked out to the same song twice, and I won't, you know. So
Yep. Yep.
I like it.
Is this the one time you're going to
If
make
they
an
are-
exception and let the audience know what you are walking out, or will it still remain a surprise?
No, it's good. I like that. I don't know. I just think it's a nice little surprise, you know.
Come
Oh,
on. What about the Santa Ana
it's
connection? We're from Santa Ana, too.
Yeah, you made
Give
us all homesick.
Give us a pass.
You don't like a good surprise? Come on.
We do. And you know what? Had you not told me that you were vegan, I was going to give you about 5 restaurants you need to hit up. Although times are changing, and I'm sure they have vegan.
Oh, plenty good vegan stuff in Brooklyn. Yeah, yeah.
Well, no, not Brooklyn, but in Santa Ana.
Oh, Santa
like I was
Ana,
going to
okay.
tell her
All
about
right.
Inca Mamas. Our mom's Peruvian, so we like Peruvian food. And on Bristol and Sunflower, there's a great Peruvian restaurant. But I was thinking, can she have tallarín verde?
Really?
Yeah, I'm sure she can.
You can go there and have something called, it's like green spaghetti, but it's in Spanish it's tallarín verde. I think you'd like it, and I think you'd hit all the check marks for, you know, your vegan diet.
I know they have a vegan section on the menu too.
Yeah, and it's quality food. Every time we go back, we make a beeline for Bristol and Sunflower. It's called Inca Mamas.
All right, I will check it out. Thank you.
All right, cool. Now tell us what's the song.
Give us the good.
all right. We'll let it be a surprise. We tried though. Hey, thanks for spending some time with us here today. I know you just got out of practice, so I'm sure you're probably gonna go chow down or take a nap before the next hard workout. But in the meantime, please, have a safe. Hope you have a safe camp, whatever's left. Safe travels to Brooklyn, and we'll be tuning in. I can't wait for this fight. You versus Beck Rawlings at UFC 223.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, we'll see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, folks. That is Ashlee Evans-Smith. Give her a follow on Twitter at Ashlee MMA. That's ASHLEE MMA. Let her know you heard her on the @MMAjunkie radio show. All right, folks. We're going to take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
Because they don't know where those people have been. And because they can. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
Man, can't go wrong with New Order. You picked that one. Good job, Goes.
Thanks.
Start your day with SiriusXM. Enable the SiriusXM skill on your Amazon device and then tell Alexa to set an alarm for your favorite channel and you'll wake up to the sounds of SiriusXM. With SiriusXM and Alexa, you can get the latest sports news each morning without picking up your phone or turning on the TV. Shout out to First Wave, which is channel 33 if you have SiriusXM, and they come really strong with the 80s music, especially Saturday night. They got this guy named DJ Bueller. Man, he's got awesome mixes. The guy doesn't say a word for 8 hours, and he just gives you great extended versions of all these classics. It's like you never really hear the same song for at least a month or so, right? Or, you know, like there's 4 Saturdays, 8 hours. So that's 32 hours of content, and he just always delivers, man. He's the guy. Let's talk to Scott in Utah. What's up, Scott? How you doing?
What's up, boys?
Hi.
What's up, man?
Scotty.
Hey, I know this might sound petty, but I was the one that coined the term waiting for the bus, not Nick from Vancouver.
Oh, my
I heard
bad.
you on the show the other day.
Okay.
And I was referring to Karolina Kowalkiewicz, how she leans against the fence.
Oh,
before
she's
you
waiting
fight.
for the bus.
Not
No.
Esparza, yeah,
No,
not
somebody said
Esparza.
it about Esparza, too. So you both may have
well,
said it. Who knows? Maybe somebody said a walk in the park, or I'm not saying I don't believe you, but I know somebody told me that in reference to Carla. But you're right. Now that I think about it, Carolina just kind of chills as well.
Yeah, I remember calling you on the show mentioning that after a Carolina fight, and you were like happy I brought it up because you noticed it too. And I said, yeah, it's like she's waiting for a bus, you know. But I didn't want Nick from Vancouver to get the credit. That's what I'm saying.
Wait, aren't you a petty guy? No, I'm just kidding. So what's up, brother?
Hey, yeah, man, I'm with you, George. Man, I think Goes and Tom are out of their mind to not go for Ferguson and Khabib over Rose and what was the other fight? Ayakinta? I was like, man, I've been waiting for this fight for years, and you guys would rather watch those other 2 fights than Ferguson and Khabib, huh?
I just think it's going to be a better fight.
I don't want to throw Goes under the bus, but I was on the Ferguson Khabib side. I think it was Jesse. I think it was Jesse and Goes
She
that were
wanted
on
the
it.
girls.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Goes wanted
Yeah.
Quinton
Oh,
Paul
okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
Goes
man.
is tripping from time to time. You know what I mean? Just you got to give him a
I
pass.
promise you it'll be a better fight.
Yeah.
Now I'm scared.
On Monday, you feel like we're gonna want to lead off with Felder and Iaquinta?
Well, more is going to come out of the other ones, but I feel like fight for fight, it'll be a better fight.
All right, we'll see. We don't know until the fights go down.
you should do
You
a
know,
poll
there's been
question.
some boring title fights, that's for sure. But I don't know, man. I guess I've been waiting for a long time. The only thing that can suck is that the build-up, the fight doesn't deliver for what we had, for all the build-ups that we had. Scott, as you can hear, the music is there. Thank you very much for calling in. It's great catching up with you.
All right.
All right,
Have a
see you,
good
buddy.
weekend.
All right. Well, that guy's petty, isn't he? I'm just kidding. We'll be right back for another hour. right, here we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. Good job, Goes, on the pick. I like that New Order song.
Is this on the American Psycho soundtrack?
I saw that movie a long time ago, so I'm not sure, but it's on a lot of soundtracks.
Yeah.
The question is, was Shannon Knapp jamming to it?
Okay, that's
Hell
a real
yeah,
question.
she was.
Yeah?
For sure.
I'm going to say she was too.
Okay.
Shannon Knapp, the president of Invicta Fighting Championships, set to join us now as we talk about Invicta FC 28 Inoue versus Jandiroba. Now, that's a title fight that they have in the main event with Mizuki Inoue against Vima Jandiroba. This fight card has everything you could want. They feature atomweight, strawweight, and flyweight very prominently. We have undefeated fighters. We have debut fighters. We have undefeated fighters fighting undefeated fighters. So someone's O must go. We have fighters from Finland, Mexico, Brazil, Japan, Russia. So there's a international flavor to the card as well. And there's some very, very recognizable names, like I mentioned. Mizuki Inoue, been following her for a while. Deanna Bennett was recently on the reality show The Ultimate Fighter. Milana Dudieva, I've seen her fight plenty of times as well. Former UFC vet Pearl Gonzalez also on the card. So lots and lots to enjoy tomorrow for Invicta Fighting Championships 28. Now, they will be on the UFC Fight Pass, and the fights start at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. They are going to be fighting live from Salt Lake City, Utah, the Union Event Center. Joining us now is the president of Invicta Fighting Championships, Shannon Knapp. Hello, Shannon. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on. It's been a bit.
Yes. Happy to have you on, Shannon. And did you like the New Order music that we were playing? Were you an 80s fan back in the day?
Absolutely. Come on. Yeah, for sure. That was good.
All right. Well,
That was all calculated, George, to get this interview off on the right foot.
Yeah, who doesn't like New Order? I got you. All right. So, I really like the sprinkle of talent that you have all over this card. You have people making their debut. You have undefeated fighters facing undefeated fighters. You have a world title fight. You have veterans. Like I mentioned earlier, a nice mix of international talent. Again, is this the work of Amanda, yourself, Caitlin, everybody chiming in to get this card going?
Absolutely. Yeah, we all work together on the cards. I think that's what makes the good cards. I think that cards can be, when everybody has some input and everybody's coming from different directions, and then we all come to an agreement, and, it usually turns out really well.
Mm-hmm. What makes a fight immediately jump off the page? Like when it's put in front of you, is it the personalities? Is it the fighting styles? Is it the stakes? What makes you really, really get excited about a fight that someone throws your way?
For me, it's the fighting style. Personalities, that comes in a second thought. To me, it's, what's really going to be a good fight. If we get somebody that is more animated and, likes to really work, before the fight and with the media and things like that, that's just, an added bonus. But I think really the big deal is how they match up. And what we know, I guess a personality, you could think about that because, if they're strong-willed and, come to fight, then that always makes for a good fight, kind of regardless, right?
Right. And Shannon, oftentimes we'll ask the male fighters, especially when they're already have flown in and they've been, housed in the fighter hotel for a few days, hey, have you seen your opponent? And have you had to ride an elevator together or just sit across from each other at breakfast? And, most of the time everybody's chill, but a lot of times you'll hear stories like people needed to be separated, things like that. How about on your cards? Have you ever had those types of problems, or has everything been smooth sailing for you?
Yeah, not here at Invicta. Of course, when I worked other places, we had those issues, but not so much here. I'm trying to think of even one example where it was heated or anything like that, where I had to get involved and, chastise someone or something like that, but just really haven't had it. Everybody's pretty respectful, and for the most part, if they don't like each other, they just stay the hell away from each other, that kind of thing.
Right. I wonder why that is because, from when I watch the females fight, they can get right after it. They almost hit their fifth gear sooner than the men do. You know what I mean? But I guess it's all about being composed for them, and all of a sudden they hear the whistle or the bell, and boom, it's on. But I guess you have to make it to that moment when the fight actually begins for the females, maybe. Yeah,
and we're conscientious, not to keep, shoving them together. And usually, I mean, the hotels are big, they can kind of stay away. I mean, they're going to run into each other, of course, but like I said, it's just always been really respectful in the sense. I don't know what you can attribute that to, but it definitely, it's definitely different. I've had my share on the male side of the sport, with people butting heads and not liking each other, and you're having issues, but not so much here.
Folks, we're talking to Shannon Knapp, the president of Invicta Fighting Championships. Invicta FC 28 is tomorrow night, and you catch the fights on the UFC Fight Pass, and they begin at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. My man TJ DeSantis will be on the call. Your main event is Mizuki Inoue versus Vima Jandiroba. Japan versus Brazil, and that is a title fight in the 115-pound class, the strawweights. All right, goes. What do you have for Shannon Knapp?
Shannon, now, I know that it wasn't too long ago when there were just the pool of fighters in women's mixed martial arts wasn't as big. Nowadays, I'm sure you get flooded with managers having requests for their fighters, footage, all kinds of stuff that you have to go through. How much more is that now, like the amount of people that you actually have to churn away as compared to maybe 3 years ago?
It's really changed a lot, and, you see it mostly in the younger athletes coming through. But it's really changed. I mean, it's a very positive change. And there's to be honest with you, there's a huge difference from, 4 or 5 years ago when we started Invicta to where we are now. So, I mean, we've been successful in building out these divisions and, certainly, bringing in, enticing young talent to go this direction. I mean, it's a good thing.
Aside from the top two fights here on this card, can you give us two names, two people to look out for that you feel like could be taking the next step?
It's always tough. Because, if I say one, I always seem to offend somebody. I think that on this card we've got some young talent. I think that, people really... I think that fight between Kelly Robbins and Pro Gonzalez is going to be really good.
Yeah, I agree.
Nina and Fernanda, that's going to be a killer fight. There's just a lot of good fights on this card. Jillian DeCourcio and Rebecca Levine. I think that's going to be a really good fight. I think those are a couple of athletes you're going to watch out for in the 105-pound division. So I think there's a lot on this card, a lot of stacked talent.
Dan Tom, our fight analyst, he's got a couple questions. What do you have for Shannon Knapp?
I almost feel guilty saying this because Mizuki Inoue is like a part of my top 10 female fights, like twice with her fights with Alexa Grasso and Karolina Kowalkiewicz. But I got to say, the fight I'm looking at most, Shannon, is your co-main event between Deanna Bennett and Karina Rodriguez. Now, I want to ask you about Deanna Bennett because Deanna Bennett's someone that came on my radar back on your Cyborg versus Ibragimova. I think that was Invicta FC 15. And, I really liked what I saw from her. But, she suffered a KO loss there to Olivia Souza, who's no slouch, and sure, she got stopped in the Ultimate Fighter by Sijara Eubanks, is no slouch, and she had 2 split decision losses again to people like Roxanne Modafferi, no slouches, but there's a lot of talent there. When you see a fighter like Deanna Bennett and you put her against a fighter like Karina Rodriguez, who fans might not know, but she's on a bit of a streak too. Karina Rodriguez, only her 2 losses only coming to UFC staples right now. So I mean, when you see a matchup like that, is that the kind of high stakes matchup that you like to see, that to bring out the best in a fighter?
Yeah, I definitely think that you want to push the athlete. Every fight they have, you kind of want to push them a little bit more, because I think that's what builds great champions. Is if an athlete just constantly gets give me's or fights they can always win or don't have to reach outside of the norm, you're not really helping that athlete. When they get into the deep waters, they're going to sink. They're not going to be able to swim. So I like this matchup. I think it's a really good matchup. Karina looked absolutely fantastic in her last fight. Deanna, I think, struggled because I think when she dropped down to 115 pounds, I don't think that's where she should have been. I think she should have stayed. She was undefeated at 125. And then she made that drop, I'm sure, with, her sights on the UFC and, that being the only division they had at that time. But I think her career suffered from it. So I think, she's back. She says she's changed camps. She feels really good. I don't know if this was out yet, but she had some struggles with the weight, cutting the weight this time. But, other than that, I think she's really ready to go. And I think this is going to give us a really good idea of where Deanna's at and definitely where Karina's at.
Now,
Well, go ahead.
Now, Inoue has a 4-fight win streak going, and the Brazilian, Janindroba, has not lost. And this is for the interim title that Angela Hill vacated, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then can you update us if both ladies made weight for this fight? Will we have a title fight?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, we will.
Awesome.
So, I haven't received any other information. I kind of dipped out, but yeah, that one looks like everything's good and everything's a go on
Yeah,
now.
I mean, isn't it great to...
It's a tough fight. This is, we lost Janisa that was in the main event, and Mizuki stepped in for the title fight. Those three right there are really, really tough. Whether you're looking at Mizuki, Verna, or Janisa, I mean, those are three athletes you definitely want to keep your eyes on in that strawweight position.
Well, Mizuki's streaking, like I say, you're picking her up on a 4-fight win streak. She's definitely no slouch, and Janindroba has not lost. So you have a quality main event there. And I wanted to ask you, I don't know if this has ever been talked about much, but tell me about your belts. Like, who's the maker, and how many generations have you gone through? People always talk about the UFC belt, the Strikeforce belt, the Bellator belt. How about the Invicta belt?
I think I love our belt. Put a lot of work into the design of it. Wildcats makes the belts, and they're crystals. It has jewels and stuff. We tried to make it, definitely more feminine. I don't spare expense on them. They cost me almost $2,000 a piece. So, but I think if you're going to win a belt, it definitely should be something you're proud of, and that you're happy to have. So, yeah, Wildcats does a really good job.
Very cool. All right. And then tomorrow, we are going to have a debut of, what do we call him, a Phoenix boy, or what's Elias's role going to be? What do we call
Phoenix guy, or, we are. That's kind of exciting. He's pretty excited about it, honestly, to be honest with you, I didn't think I'd ever allow this or do it, just because I wouldn't want it to be a joke or, anything like that. But he's taking it very serious. He's very excited about it, and he wants to be, with the company long term, not just this event. So it'll be interesting to see how the fans react to it. And, I've never met him before, had the opportunity to sit down with him last night. He's a good kid. He seems, I like his hustle. He's definitely out there trying to do things to make life better,
Right.
and to do good things. So, I think, it's, hopefully all goes well, and, everybody will embrace it, and, we'll have a good show, and he'll continue to be part, with us here at Invicta.
And so he's officially a Phoenix guy, not a boy?
I just told somebody a boy. You just kind of.
Well, only because the other ones are Phoenix girls, so I thought that it just may be easy to say Phoenix boy, but yeah, Phoenix guy. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's somewhere in that range, but yeah, definitely. I mean, it's good to have him here. We'll see. Like I said, I was a little apprehensive, but after having a few conversations with him and. And seeing that he was really serious, because, you never know, right? You can't know if somebody wants to show up, make a joke of it, and I'm just not interested in that. We work hard to keep a clean reputation here and, to do, keep it classy, and that wasn't what he was about. He wasn't, he wanted the same things I was looking for, so it aligned, and, now, we were happy about that. You guys have to tune in to watch the weigh-ins today. We've got some new sponsors, so that's kind of exciting. Hannibal Buress he's sponsoring Invicta, so that's kind of cool as well. Yeah, he's a fan, and we're a fan, so yeah, it aligned and went well. But yeah, I think that we're going to launch the boxing this year. We're looking at August for that, so some good stuff coming down the pike.
What time are your weigh-ins?
They are at 5 o'clock, so it would be 4 o'clock your time.
5 o'clock Mountain, 4 o'clock Pacific. And that'll be 7 p.m. Eastern today for the weigh-ins, folks. And tomorrow, the fight starts at 8 p.m. Eastern. And again, it culminates with a world title fight, Mizuki Inoue versus Vina Janindroba. 9 fights in total on the fight card. And you folks are going to enjoy it. They've been doing this for a while now. This is their 28th edition. And this is Shannon Knapp, their president, that's joined us here to do a quick breakdown and catch us up a little bit on everything going on with Invicta Fighting Championships. Shannon, thanks for the time. I know you're busy. Today and tomorrow are super busy for you, but thanks for squeezing us in.
No, thank you. It's always a pleasure. I hope you guys are doing well.
Thank you, Shannon. Take care.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's Shannon Knapp, the president of Invicta Fighting Championships, at Shan, K-N-A-P-P on Twitter. S-H-A-N-K-N-A-P-P on Twitter. Give her a follow. Let her know the at MMA Junkie Radio crew sent you. All right, also, you know, Cyborg, Tisha, Rose, like there are a lot of females that have come through Invicta. I don't want anyone to think that Invicta just popped out of nowhere. Like they really, really have a ton of credibility. Oftentimes we'll say, well, Woodley came from Strikeforce and Benson came from WEC. And I want people to start talking about some of the ladies that are fighting that we cover here when we talk about the UFC and talk about their journey through Invicta, because, man, those guys took a chance on something, and a lot of people, I wouldn't say laughed, but a lot of people just brushed them off.
Penny, Watterson, there's a bunch of them.
Oh, hell yeah, there's a ton. There's a ton that went through there. And then that first show hit, and we started hearing about just what a tight ship they run, how professional they were, and, you know, they had quality refereeing and cutman and everything that the females needed to perform. Then they went through a little ownership change where they didn't throw a show for a year and a half, and a lot of people thought they were going to lose steam there, and they didn't. They still kept progressing. Then remember all the doubts. No, you don't get that many viewers on Ustream. And our boy, Brad Hunstable, the CEO of Ustream, wanted to be on the show. There was a problem with the broadcast, but when he came on here, he clarified and validated everything Shannon had said in the past about just how many viewers they have and how well they were doing. I'm not sure if he threw out the numbers, but he did say
said it was huge.
It was huge.
It was huge enough to crash them, right?
It was very big. And so that promotion's been through a lot, and they keep going through, man. They keep hustling. So, like I mentioned, in the title fight, it's for the vacant strawweight, and their former champion Angela Hill, who yet again is doing very well in the UFC. She recently got a win. I think it was the Charlotte show. Yeah, I think that's what it was. Anyway, all right, folks. What are we doing, Danny? What did I say? Are we doing a quick break now? Is now a good time?
We can. If you
yeah,
want to.
let's do that so we can regroup. And we still have one more guest to go. It'll be Kyle Bochniak, but we still have a little bit of time. So let's start lining up our breaks. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. When we come back, I know we'll have some time to take some calls. We'll hit the refresh and see what's out there in terms of the latest news in mixed martial arts. If you haven't heard, by the way, the big one this week is Colby Covington versus Rafael dos Anjos for the UFC interim welterweight title at UFC 224 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and this fight card takes place in May. It's the co-main event under Amanda Nunes defending her title versus Raquel Pennington. Now, why this is big is because we start to think, well, what happened to Tyron Woodley? And we haven't really heard anything from him. Is his injury, did he have a setback, or is he butting heads with the promotion? We don't know, but hopefully we get some answers soon, and we can talk about this. That way we can figure out what is going to happen in one of the most exciting divisions in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the welterweight division. We also have the daily debate, so stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages.
They're so fat, they gave Dracula diabetes. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
Just in time for the NCAA basketball tournament, Sirius XM has 3 channels dedicated to 3 of the biggest conferences in college sports. SEC Radio, that's on channel 374. ACC Radio, it's on channel 371. Pac-12 Radio is on channel 373. Check them out on your radio or on the SiriusXM app. That SiriusXM app also houses the MMA Junkie radio show, commercial-free and in HD quality. All right, now it's time for today's daily debate brought to you by the MMA Junkie radio crew. Here we go. Today's hashtag daily debate question for MMA Junkie Radio, Twitter Talk. Which upcoming Bellator MMA headliner are you the most anticipating? Henderson versus Huerta, Chandler versus Gertz, Emelianenko versus Mir, or Bader versus Lawal? Start us off, Goes.
I'm an old school softie. I gotta go Emelianenko and Mir. How many years did we talk about Pride versus the UFC? Now, granted, it's not the same, but these are 2 names that got teased back in the day. Fun to watch it. I'm in. Put me in for that one.
Dan, Tom?
I'm going to go a bit contrarian here because a lot of the names listed are names that we're familiar with. They deserve for us to be familiar with. They're awesome names, but I'm going to go with, well, still a familiar name, Michael Chandler, only because I still feel like Michael Chandler, kind of like his moniker there, Iron Mike. It's kind of like Iron Mike Tyson. He's must-see TV every time he goes out there. I want to see, is he going to take him down, slam him to the ground? He's going to go for the knockout, and Brandon Gertz brings the fight. Even though, it is a replacement matchup, we're not getting Brent Primus. I still think it's an action fight that is going to surprise a lot of people. It's going to be real fun to watch. So,
and I wonder if the title fight was still there, if the percentages would be higher, because
I think it would be.
It could be, man. Those guys have a little bit of heat. It was a bizarre ending in New York City last year for their pay-per-view when Michael Chandler lost his belt, and you can tell Chandler's been gunning for that guy. Primus is hurt though, and so here are the results of the poll. Is 60% agree with Goes, Emelianenko versus Mir. The rest are really, really razor close.
Okay.
Bader versus Lawal, 15%. Henderson versus Huerta, 13%. Chandler versus Gertz, 12%.
Wow.
So second place is very, very close, but it's dominated by Emelianenko and Mir. Of all the fighters there, guys, I would say my personal favorites are Mo Lawal and Michael Chandler. But they're not fighting each other. And Lawal and Bader would be my answer if it was for a title fight, or Chandler versus Primus would be my answer if it was for a title fight. But one's part of the Strikeforce Grand Prix, which will culminate in a heavyweight champ. I'm just not sure either one of those guys will be in the final. Well, we know one of them won't be. And they're not heavyweights. They're light heavyweights, and I can't wait to see their fight for a world title as a light heavyweight. So I think I'm just going to go with Goes on this one, Mir and Emelianenko, because Emelianenko was one of my favorite fighters. It's just that he's not what he once was, but he still has an exciting left hook, and he's still Fedor. And, of course, Frank Mir, man, that guy will rip your arm off. So let's see how these guys settle their score that they've had for the last few years. There you have it, folks. That's today's Daily Debate brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio crew. All right, so let's move on with today's show. Let's talk to Marco in Waco, Texas. What's up, Marco? How you doing?
From Waco, ¿qué pasa, dudes?
¿Qué pasa, man?
So here I'm hoping that Loyola Chicago wins the whole freaking thing to bust everybody's brackets, man, because holy shit. I don't know what I got the NCAA out of my mind, dude. I was watching the games yesterday, and damn, Loyola Chicago, dude. Those dudes came out of nowhere.
How about that that old lady chaplain? She thought Loyola Chicago was not going to advance. She made that public prediction, and she was all giggling and smiling when they interviewed her afterwards, kind of like, aw, shucks. But I just don't understand why she didn't just pick them all the way to the finals. You know what I mean? How do you not do that?
How old is she? 98?
98. You just give her a pass because she's 98?
What do you want from me? I'm old. That's what I say.
I guess. Yeah.
But you're right. Well, but, I mean, isn't it kind of refreshing that she's being realistic, too?
No.
Not very many people had them coming out of the first round. I mean, that's pretty bold to say they're going to get 2 victories.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just would have wrote it in. I would have wrote it all the way to the final. I felt like it was kind of a jinx move or who knows what. But now I'm hoping she just picks against them every time, and the team can just prove her wrong.
Yeah, she's a chaplain. She's 98. She's believing in God, and not even her believe in miracles. Well, I got a UFC Chile on my mind with Vulcan Osemir and Shogun Rua on the card, not even being the main event, man. I think that the co-main, and they're looking for someone for Santiago Ponzinibbio to main event that card. And I'm wondering, I mean, I don't know. For me, it was either going to be like a down tier or something like that, but that's not how it was going to Liverpool. And Cody and Abdiel.
You thought Darren Till was going to headline Chile when they've been very open about the fact they have a card in Liverpool?
No, I would like to see those clash probably in Liverpool, but I understand the need Ponzinibbio Santiago.
Yeah.
So who you guys got for him? I mean, Neil Magny maybe? Who you guys got?
Marco.
He's out.
Okay, wait. Are you going to go to the Chile card?
Come on, dude. I'm not going to spend like a couple of $1,000 just to go up there and back on a 19-hour flight. Hell no.
You don't have family out there or nothing?
Yeah, you don't have
It
friends
ain't
and family
torture, fool.
that
You're from there.
Yeah, you can tie into like a visit.
No, it's not happening. I don't roll in dough like that. I wish I did, but no.
Do you have friends and family still in Chile?
My mother and my brother, that's it. Well, a few friends and stuff, but I haven't visited since my father passed away in 2002, man. And I flew from Germany to go bury my father because he was stationed in Germany at the time. That was the last time I went.
Oh, wow.
Not interested.
All right, I apologize for my ridiculous question.
Hey, Marco, we know you pretty well, man. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but what's your relationship with your brother and your mother?
Okay, my brother, long story short, he lived here in the United States for a while, and he went back to Chile. So I told the dumbass not to go, but he did. But he wasn't born in the United States like I am, so he still got immigration issues to come back. So I tried to sponsor him. Now he lives on Easter Island, by the way, with his wife, and that's my wife. He moved to that damn island. He used to live in Hawaii, by the way.
He lives on Easter Island?
He lives on Easter Island.
That's
now,
8 hours away from Chile, so he doesn't live in Chile. He lives on Easter Island.
He's still Chilean territory, bro.
Well, I guess you're right. All right, and that's where he lives. Okay, and then how about your mom? You have a good relationship with her? You don't want to see her after 16 years?
No, I love my mom and stuff, and she came here to the United States to visit a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay.
But she's I'm going to bring her over eventually to just stay and end her days here with me, but, we're waiting on that one. Is that what you think?
Fair enough, my man. Thanks for the call. To answer your question, though, I think it'll be – I just think that, what we're hearing on social media is everyone's turning down Kamaru Usman, and I believe it. I've heard it enough times that I believe it. But would Ponzinibbio turn it down and not headline Chile? I mean, I think he really wants to headline Chile and to progress. Like, everything else is already settled. RDA's got Covington. Till and Wonderboy looks likely. What's Ponzinibbio going to want at this point? Yeah, of course, Usman's a tough matchup, but
really
think about how much it'll catapult you if you beat Usman. I mean, that's quite a feather in your hat. So, he's lost before. He's not trying to protect the no. I don't get it. Right now we have Volkan Ozdemir versus Mauricio Hua, Chad Laprise versus Vicente Luque, Guido Canetti versus Diego Rivas, Alexa Grasso versus Tatiana Suarez. That's a good fight, by the way. Andrea Lee versus Veronica Macedo, Poliana Botello versus Suyuri Kondo, Henry Briones versus Frankie Sainz, Jared Cannonier versus Dominic Reyes, Claudio Puelles versus Felipe Silva. So, could it use Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Kamaru Usman? Hell yeah. Because all I see right now for the hardcore fan is Volkan Hua, Grasso Suarez, maybe Canetti Rivas, and then after that, I Botello and Kondo. I don't know. I don't know what else is there for someone to really feel like they're watching the next contender or something like that. I think that's what people want to watch, either a title fight, a contender, just some sort of a mover and shaker, or someone that's got a good trajectory, not just a card filler. You'll take your fair share of card fillers because no matter what, MMA is exciting, man. It doesn't matter if 10-10 is fighting 11-11. If you match them up together, they're still going to provide you a great fight, but you're only going to have you only want enough of those till you get to the fights that you feel are going to matter at some point when it comes to wearing gold around the waist.
Would you not agree, though, whenever they have a hometown guy, I know they're not going to go out and say it, but don't they kind of like to give that person a favorable matchup? Kamaru Usman's tough. You got the South American connection. You probably want the South American fighters to win,
so
right?
Let me tell you this
That's
much.
a tough matchup,
Emil
dude.
Meek. Did you guys feel like Emil Meek got walked over? I didn't.
No.
He didn't get walked over, but it was clear what was going on.
Right, but I don't know, man. I just Santiago's at a point. I mean, fuck. You know what? Because the UFC matchmakers and the president have to put their foot down and go, hey, I realize this guy's a tough matchup, but this is what it is. Like in April, in about 1 month, the NFL is going to drop their schedule. There's no team out there going, oh, man, the fucking Patriots in New England in January. I mean, sure, you might say that, but you're still going to go and play the damn game. It's a tough road to become a world champion, and it's the same way it should be like that. It can't always be like Alabama versus Appalachian State, you know, in Alabama, 63-0. It's not going to be like that. It has to be tough. The road games have to be tough.
December.
Yeah.
In January, not so much, but in December, yeah.
And there's always going to be card filler, you're right. But I think the problem is when it feels like the process of card filler is similar to a process we're trying to fill. We're talking about a main event spot. We shouldn't be talking about a main event spot like a card filler. Who are we going to have to fill this spot? Whereas, like, I kind of agree. Kind of the point goes made where, yeah, you can always, you know, hometown cooking or playing up a matchup for a hometown guy to give him a passover. I don't think there's anything wrong with that in this point. I don't even think you need to make a matchup that makes sense. Because if you're trying to develop a market, you're trying to develop a fighter, in a market. Well, why don't you just give him a good matchup so he can get paid, another guy can get paid who needs to fight. We get the viewers get a nice card, the people, you know, and the locally get a nice show, they get a nice pop. Hopefully that translates to the card. It makes a successful card. It makes a successful venture into another market. Otherwise, yeah, we're just throwing away contenders. Because and the other argument is for it. Let's say Santiago Ponzinibbio isn't ducking Usman. Who says it's a good fight for Usman? That's a tough fight for Ponzinibbio. I agree with you guys. But let's think about it this way. Who says that's a good fight for Usman? Usman, what? He's needing a name. He's deserving of a name. He needs that name. He needs that bump. He needs that high-ranked guy. Ponzinibbio is up there, but is he really that name yet, guys? Is he really that undeniable number of a ranking? No and no. And what was our last memory of Usman? Getting, you know, whether he was dominating Emil Meek or not? No, that wasn't the conversation. It was, 30% Usman. He was getting booed by the audience. You really think, even if he doesn't do a 3-round decision, even if he goes on ISIS pod and Zanibio, do you think that the Chilean crowd's going to be going, Usman, yeah? Is it going to give him that put over? Is it going to give him that post-fight he needs, even if Usman does come correct with the performance and the post-fight speech? So, again, is this even the best fight for Usman? I don't know.
It may not be, but with everyone else turning him down, and I would imagine he wants to stay busy just because you stay more fluid, your timing, you get a paycheck. It just may be what he needs to do. You know, I think to Edson Barbosa, he took the assignment that nobody wanted, and that was to fight Khabib. And sure, he lost, all right? He probably gained a lot of experience. You know, he probably will never fear another wrestler again. It ain't going to get any worse than that. And guess what? He's headlining in his new adopted home state. Maybe Santiago, when they go back to Buenos Aires, they'll go, hey, thanks, kid. You took one for us in Chile. You're also going to be on this Argentina card. I don't know.
That's true.
I don't know. And he might win. I mean, he's got to feel like, hey, I can knock out anyone.
Yeah.
So, all right, we got to take this break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, start. You told me that code would get rid of them. Yeah, well, they're still here. Okay, but now they know I tried to kill them. Hold on, Mom. Here Georgian goes.
Start your day with SiriusXM. Enable the SiriusXM skill on your Amazon device, and then tell Alexa to set an alarm for your favorite channel, and you'll wake up to the sounds of SiriusXM. With SiriusXM and Alexa, you can get the latest sports news each morning without picking up your phone or turning on the TV. All right, we are trying to get Kyle Bochniak on the show. It looks like we're exchanging texts, and I think we'll make this happen pretty soon. But right now, I'm going to take advantage of these 30 seconds that I have to thank our guests for the week, as we do every Friday. Big thanks to Calvin Cater, Ally Aquinta, Jessica Rose Clark, Artem Lobov, General Malcolm Frost, Devin Brock, Taiwan Claxton, Ashlee Evans-Smith, and Shannon Knapp. You brought your coingas, just in case?
Just in case, you never know.
Did I bring mine?
I don't want to get called on it.
I think I may have. Yeah, I saw it. Okay. Yeah, I have mine right there. All right.
Kyle's there.
And now we're ready to go with our last guest of the day and of the week. His name is Kyle Bochniak. He will be fighting at UFC 223, which takes place on April 7th in Brooklyn, New York. His opponent that night will be Zabit Magomed Sharipov. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up, Kyle? How you doing?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us here on the show. I can't wait to hear your fight just so I can hear the announcers try and pronounce your name and Zabit's last name over and over and over again. You know they're going to butcher it. But yours is Bochniak, right?
That's correct, man. It's Bochniak.
Bochniak, all right. Your opponent's, though, man, he's tripping. He's got like 3 last names. Magomed Sharipov.
It's a difficult one to pronounce.
It is, man. If you had to cut a promo, that'd be, oh, man, it'd be like a tongue twister. Now you just wait and see. On Saturday, April 7th, Magomed Sharipov, you're toast. it wouldn't come off smooth.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we talked to a few of your boys this week. Calvin Cater, you know, you guys got a good thing going up there in Boston. You know, this is kind of like a second generation of like Boston mixed martial artists that are thriving. Yourself, Rob Font, Calvin Cater. Were you one of those guys that was influenced by Kenny Florian, Jorge Rivera, and those other guys growing up, Marcus Davis?
Not really, man. I kind of got in the sport kind of late. You know, I was just trying to find something to keep me out of trouble and stay in shape. And, you know, this has kind of saved my life, and I just kind of got into it that way, just, you know, trying to get as far ahead as possible in the sport.
What kind of trouble? Were you like a partier, or were you like breaking laws?
Both.
Oh, wow.
I would party and end up breaking laws. You know, I just went down the wrong path at a young age, like every kid does. And, you know, at 22, I decided to leave my hometown, Gloucester, and go to welding school and get an education. And I fell into it, mixed martial arts down there. And I kind of, when I graduated, came back to Boston area. I went to Broadway Jiu-Jitsu just to check it out and stay in shape. And, you know, I love the head coach there, John Clark, and there's a good thing going. And I just continued to train in, got my first amateur fight. I won it, and I was addicted ever since and just wanted to continue on this path.
Kyle, listen, if you want to change the subject, so be it. We can talk mixed martial arts. But I'm just curious because yesterday I got stuck surfing YouTube, and I came across Whitey Bulger and some other stuff. There was some guy named, his last name was Nee, another guy, Paul Nee, or I forget, and he was talking about him and his gang and Whitey Bulger's gang. But were you mixed up in anything like that, or was it street gangs or other stuff? What?
No. I wasn't mixed up anything like that. Just, you know, getting drunk, getting in fights, I don't know, causing trouble, racking up stupid petty charges in one summer. You know, I was really young, and, you know, I got sent away for a little bit, and I had to clean up my act. And I looked amongst my peers in jail, and I realized, you know, I want to do something else in my life, and that's when I decided to make the change.
Was that the rock bottom, you know, you being behind bars, or was it something the judge said to you, or was it when you got out and had to face family and friends?
Yeah, basically, you know, I was 22 when I looked amongst my peers and stuff, and I realized, you know, this isn't who I am. I'm throwing my life away. I was a high school dropout. You know, I could have had a full scholarship ride to play football. I was always a gifted athlete. anything I put my mind to, I could do. It's just, I just going down the wrong tube, hanging out with the wrong crowd. And, like, once I got my act together, I have nonstop, man. Like, I just would continue training, fighting, working, everything, just to get as far ahead as I can possible. And, I had my first fight at 24, I believe, and then at age 30, I was in the UFC. So,
Were you able to turn the page completely? Like, I feel like everybody still has fibers from when they were younger, and like, can someone poke your buttons and then it's on, or have you really just become a calm person where you are a professional athlete and you won't fight in the streets?
Yeah, man. No, I won't fight in the streets. I don't even drink. I don't do anything anymore. I don't smoke, drink. I don't even hang out with the old people I used to associate with. I'm on the straight and narrow now, and I think this just gives me more fuel, more aggression once I get in that cage and do what I have to do. It's like my vice. I just let it go.
Do those guys that you used to hang with, are they aware of your fighting career, and do you think they at least cheer for you that someone was able to make it out of the neighborhood?
Oh, of course, man. That's my home crowd. Everybody's happy. I'm an inspiration now for all the other younger generation. Gloucester, where I grew up, and just moving forward, just hung with the wrong crowd at a young age. I had to clean up my act. Now I'm an adult, and I'm doing good things.
Man, dude, that's awesome to hear. Seriously, I know we don't know each other, but shit, I'm proud to be interviewing a guy like you to make that kind of a turnaround, and the fact that you're inspiring a new generation, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's what it's about, man.
And tell me one last thing here, and then I'll let the guys fire off a few questions. As far as football, what position did you play?
I was a running back and a corner. I was a little small, but I could hit like a max.
Definitely have to be athletic to play those two.
Hell
right?
yeah. If you're playing cornerback, man, you got to have good hand-eye coordination. You have to be able to, pivot off your feet. You have to have good feet. You have to have speed. So if he was getting movement. Yeah, if you were getting offers, then you must have had some skills. And then, of course, running back, you got to be a pretty tough guy there. All right, Kyle Bochniak, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He will be fighting on April 7th at UFC 223. It's headlined by Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson. You also have Rose Namajunas and Joanna Jędrzejczyk on that fight card. Kyle will be fighting versus Zabit Magomedsharipov in the opening bout. All right, Goes, what do you have for Kyle?
Kyle, in your last fight, what really stood out to me was just how comfortable you looked in any situation. You just had this really calm demeanor. Do you feel like you may have turned a turning point in that last fight for you for your career?
Yeah, man, I agree. Like, I had a cool, common effect about myself, just not overthinking situations, just being more creative, like more, so to speak, like artistic, just like being free and just doing what I had to do and seeing things at different angles, not having so much tunnel vision. I was light on my feet, getting comfortable, letting my hands down, moving my head, get in range. I felt like wherever the fight went, I was cool, calm, collected. I prepared well, and, I had a healthy camp, and my cardio was top-notch, so it felt good.
Zabit has a lot of hype around him, and I think rightfully so, but when you look at his level of his opponents, how do you feel? Does he impress you? Does he stand out over previous people that you faced before?
I haven't really doing that type of thinking, man. All I know right now, he's an MMA fighter. He's got a lot of hype behind him. I'm not underestimating him. I never underestimate anyone. I just train hard as I can. And April 7th, I'm going to show up. I haven't been watching too much film on this kid. I know he's got a lot of hype behind him, and he's a good kid, good wrestling. He likes to move around. He's exciting. All I know is there's a lot of hype behind this kid, and I'm just trying to take that hype train away and, take all his fans and put myself on the map.
Kyle Bochniak, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. All right, the fight analyst, Dan Tom's got a couple questions for you. Go ahead, Dan.
Hey, what's up, Kyle? I know you worked down there at Broadway Jiu-Jitsu and have been recently working with Lausanne MMA and whatnot. Is that a permanent fixture now, though? Doing that little circuit of training groups?
Yeah. I Broadway Jiu-Jitsu under John Clark's my home gym. I've been there for 6 years now. I do some cross training. I train with Peter Welch at Peter Welch's gym. Do some boxing with him, and I do cross training on Saturdays at Lausanne. We have a couple of killers that go up there in the Northeast. Like Rob Font, Calvin Cater. Lausanne's always there. Mike Rodriguez, he's fighting on the same card as me. We got all the top talent in the New England, Rhode Island, everybody cross-trained on Saturday. So it's been a good camp, and it's been a good fit, and that's what I've been doing for the past couple of camps.
All talented guys that you just mentioned, but Calvin Cater's one that I kind of relate to you in a way like this, where I see both of you guys and I see both of your games being very underrated because you guys seem fundamentally strong in all areas. Kind of like Go said, you've got the composure, the mental side of it too. But it seems like your guys' fundamentals are strong. You mentioned Peter Welch there for your boxing, another great trainer. Is that kind of how you view your game when you go against these guys? Whether it was your last fight, you had a flashy guy, Brandon Davis. Obviously, Magomed Sharapov has some flash to him. Is that how you kind of do you rely on these strengths, Kyle? Or
well, I know my fundamentals are sound. I just can't put myself in stupid positions and get out of position too much. I feel like these flashy guys, they're going to put themselves out of position a lot more than I will, so I just got to be ready, stay in the pocket, and ready to throw. Brandon Davis was a different type of guy. I had to move around a lot on my feet, pick my shots, explode when I wanted to, grind them against the fence. It's going to be a different type of fight. I just got to be ready when he puts himself out of position and ready to throw.
Well, Kyle, hey, listen, man, we're excited about this, not just your fight, the whole fight card. I imagine you're going to shower after the fight and become a fan and check out the rest of the fights, including your teammates that are going to be fighting on the fight card. But you got to be pretty jacked about the whole event in general, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. This is an awesome card to be on, man. I'm so excited. The whole entire card is stacked. Like you said, right after my fight, I'm going to rinse off, relax, get some good food, and just watch the whole entire card. I cannot wait to watch my teammate Kata throw down either.
Right on, my man. Well, listen, thank you very much for the time. We appreciate it. I'm glad we were able to catch up. Thanks for opening up a little bit about your past. A lot of times I think we talk so much X's and O's, we don't get to know a little bit about the fighters personally. But that's an incredible turnaround, and, again, very commendable, that you're inspiring younger generations and everything. I'm sure they'll be tuning into your fight as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Kyle. Take care. Have a nice weekend.
All right.
Later. All right, folks. That is Kyle Bochniak. Follow him on Twitter at Kyle Bochniak. KYLEBOCHNIAK. Big shout out to Ed Cap for lining up Bochniak and Ashlee Evans-Smith. Fist bump to Dan Stupp for the lead on Shannon Knapp. Of course, I closed it, so I got to give myself a shout out as well. Shout out to myself. And that's basically it, for this week. We're going to wrap up here on time. Kind of a slow week in terms of, the UFC, Bellator, and all the moving and shaking. But some news that jarred the industry, in the last couple days with that announcement of RDA and Colby. I guess that was the big one, right, guys?
It's got to be.
Yeah.
For the week, yeah.
I mean, I wonder what that'll lead to with Tyron Woodley, who's very outspoken, and I'll be checking the Hollywood Reporter. I think it's called the Hollywood Beatdown later on TMZ. See what he has to say. There's some great stories there on the site. If you want to know why Little Pitbull, which is Patricio, did not fight Michael Chandler, he wanted to go 5 rounds. He said they offered it to him, but it wasn't going to be a 5-round fight because it wasn't a title, nor because they didn't want to make it a headline 5-round fight. Does Bellator do that for their headliners? I
don't think so.
No? Okay. And so that's what he wanted. That's why he turned down the fight, and that's why Gertz stepped in. Dana White putting the kibosh on Johnson versus Dillashaw. Wow. I thought for sure that was kind of a done deal. There's an LFA tonight featuring Ricky Simone, who in the past I believe has soaked up some of the Junkie vibes for the Junkie Karma. So I'll be rooting for him. He's facing Vinicius Zani. Benson Henderson, I didn't know this. There's an article there on him skipping cop career for MMA. And we just mentioned him the other day where he wanted to go to the military at some point, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But I didn't know that he was going to be a cop at one point and decided to go into MMA. Did you guys know that?
I didn't know that either.
I didn't know that, yeah. All right. Anyway, all right, folks. Keep it locked on MMA Junkie throughout the weekend. We have great reporters and editors that are putting out all kinds of awesome content on this great sport of ours, and we are turning the corner soon. We're going to have a lot of Bellator events, UFC events, but keep an eye on that regional scene. Again, there's an LFA card, there is Invicta Fighting Championships this weekend, so lots to keep you busy, and of course the next round of March Madness. Who you rooting for, Goes? You have even a favorite from a distance?
I kind of root for Kansas a little bit.
I don't know about
I
Kansas.
I knew that was coming, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna root for I think Purdue. I need them to somehow make it to them and Michigan and someone else, and I may have a chance. So for Danny and Danny Goes, I'm George. Go out there and be champions.